In this next section, we're going to talk about how to write the equation of a parabola. The standard form of a quadratic function looks like this. F of x is equal to a x minus h squared plus k. And the reason this is called standard form is because when the function is written in this form, we can clearly see the vertex. The vertex is going to be the point h comma k. The direction of the parabola, parabola will open upwards if a is positive, so a is the coefficient here, and the parabola will open downward if a is negative. And to find a, what we're going to do is we're going to use the vertex and a point on the parabola, and we'll solve for a. So let's take a look at an example. Write the equation of this parabola. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at standard form. So standard form is f of x or y is equal to a x minus h squared plus k. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to fill in values for h and k. Now that comes from the vertex of the parabola. So this parabola has a vertex at -2, -3. So that tells us that h is equal to -2 and k is equal to -3. So far we have y is equal to a, x minus -2 is the same as x plus 2, plus -3 is the same as subtracting 3. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to use any point on the parabola and we're going to use it to solve for a. So I'm going to pick this point right here in the parabola. That's the point 0, -1. I'm picking that point because one of the coordinates of that point is 0, and it'll make it really easy to plug into the equation. So I'm going to plug in 0 for x and -1 for y, and then I'm going to solve for a. So for y, I'm putting -1 is equal to a, x is going to be 0, 0 plus 2 is just 2, so 2 squared minus 3. In other words, -1 is equal to 4a minus 3. And now this is a very simple equation to solve. If we go ahead and do that, by adding 3 and dividing by 4, we're going to find out that a is equal to 1/2. And because the parabola opens upward, we know that this value of a is positive. So now all we have to do is write the standard form. Standard form then would be equal to y is equal to a we just found out is 1/2. X minus h is the same as x plus 2 squared minus 3. Now that has a lot of steps to it, so let's do one more example. So I drew one down here, which you're going to have to draw into your notes as well. So I drew a parabola that has a vertex at 1, -1 and passes through the point 0, 1. So again, how do we start? We start by using standard form. So y is equal to a x minus h squared plus k. And we're going to use our vertex to fill in values for h and k. So h is equal to 1 and k is equal to -1. So this far, this is going to start off as y is equal to a x minus 1 squared plus -1. All right. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to pick a point on the parabola. So notice that I said that the parabola passed through this point 0, 1. So I'm going to plug in 0 for x, 1 for y, and solve for a. So that gives us 1 is equal to a x minus 0, or excuse me, 0 minus 1. So 0 minus 1 is -1 squared minus 1. In other words, 1 is equal to 1a minus 1. We'll add 1 to both sides, and then we'll divide, and we're going to find out that a is equal to 2. Again, this parabola opens upward. Since it opens upward, we know that a is positive. And so our final answer is y is equal to, a turned out to be 2, x minus h is 1 squared, plus k is negative 1. So this would be the equation of that parabola. How do we find the vertex if we don't have a picture and we want to write the equation? Finding the vertex of a parabola that's not in standard form, what we're going to use is we're going to use this formula, h is equal to the opposite of b over 2a, to find h. And then once we have that, we'll substitute that value into the equation to find k, and the value a will be given in the original equation, and then we can write the standard form. So here we go. Find the vertex of f of x is equal to 2x squared minus 2x minus 4, and then write the equation in standard form. Okay, so here we go. Now fortunately, this formula reminds us of the first part of the quadratic formula. So h is going to be equal to the opposite of b over 2a. And if this is our equation, remember that a and b are the coefficients here. So we see that a is equal to 2 and b is equal to negative 2. So let's go ahead and solve then for h. So that tells us that h is equal to the opposite of negative 2, which is positive 2, over 2 times 2, which is 4. And so h is equal to 1/2, or 0.5 if you'd rather work in decimals. So now we know the vertex occurs at 1/2, comma. Now we have to find out what k is. To find what k is, we're going to plug in 1/2 into our equation. So we're going to find out that k is equal to 2 times 1/2 squared minus 2 times 1/2 minus 4. So don't be intimidated by the fractions, just work through them, or if you don't like them, feel free to work in decimals. So this is going to be 2 times 1/4 minus 2 times 1/2 is 1, minus 4. In other words, 2/4 minus 5. In other words, 1/2 minus 5. And 1/2 minus 5 is negative 4.5, which now we can transform back into a fraction. So that would be equal to negative 9/2. And so this parabola is going to have a vertex at 1/2, comma, negative 1/2. So remember, standard form is y is equal to a times x minus h squared plus k. We just found h, we just found k, and a we already knew because we had the formula or the equation already here. We already knew that a was equal to 2. And so the equation in standard form would be 2 times x minus 1/2 squared minus 9/2. Okay, so that's how you find the vertex when your parabola is not in standard form. Let's do one more example like that. Okay, so let's find the vertex of x squared plus 5x minus 2 and write the equation in standard form. So remember, standard form is y is equal to a x minus h squared plus k. So the first thing we have to do is find h and k, and we do that by using this formula here. H is equal to the opposite of b over 2a. So here we go. H is equal to the opposite of b over 2a, and in our original equation, a is equal to 1 and b is equal to 5. So h would be equal to the opposite of 5 over 2 times 1. So there's our value for h. To find our value for k, we have to take this value and plug it into our original equation. So here we go. When we do that, we have negative 5 halves squared. I have to erase this so I can see what that original was. Plus 5 times negative 5 halves minus 2. Okay, so here we go. Negative 5 halves squared is 25 fourths minus 25 over 2 minus 2. And again, if you're bothered by the fractions, just work in decimals. That's perfectly fine. I'm just going to stay in fractions because I'm in fractions right now. So a common denominator is going to be 4. I'm going to multiply this one by 2 over 2. I'm going to multiply this one by 4 over 4. And so what will that give us? That gives us 25 over 4 minus 50 over 4 minus 8 over 4. And if we do all of that computation, that's going to be negative 25 minus 8. That's going to be negative 33 over 4. And that is equal to k. So the vertex is going to be found at negative 5 halves, negative 33 over 4. So all we have to do to write the equation is fill in the values. We already know that a is 1. We just found h. We just found k. So the equation would be 1 times x minus 5 halves. In other words, x plus 5 halves squared. And then we add on k. Okay. Here's one for you to try. Find the vertex of this parabola, 3x squared minus 6x minus 9. Let me help you get started. So you're going to start by finding h. H is going to be equal to the opposite of b over 2a. And in this parabola, a is equal to 3, and b is equal to negative 6. So you're going to start by going h is equal to the opposite of b, that would be positive 6, over 2 times a, that would be 2 times 3 is 6. Look, no fractions. H is going to turn out to be 1. Now you find k.